concrete industry is focused on reducing its emissions, with the aim to produce net zero concrete by 2050, but for making efforts to improve environmental performance and implement sustainable practices for decades of operations in the province of British Columbia and across Canada. As the cement and concrete industry continue to make progress in reducing the environmental impact of our products, project owners and their representatives are also turning their attention to emissions associated with materials and construction. More and more government agencies and project designers are developing specifications and procurement policies to incorporate low-carbon concrete requirements. From an industry perspective, however, it is important to ensure as much consistency as possible in these requirements in terms of documentation, administration, and enforcement. Concrete industry is taking an active role in collaborating with government in the development of low-carbon concrete policies, making efforts to educate stakeholders on the practical implications of proposed specifications while accommodating emission reduction ambitions as possible. A recent example comes from the City of Langford, located near Victoria on Vancouver Island, who in late 2021 announced intention to implement a low-carbon concrete specification mandating the use of carbon mineralization technology. We caught up with the City of Langford to discuss their experience in developing their low-carbon concrete policy.
As the fastest growing community on Vancouver Island, the city is aware of the impact construction has on the environment. One of our targeted climate action goals is to reduce embodied carbon emissions associated with the activities and materials that contribute to building our infrastructure. The city began developing what we intended to be an industry-leading policy to make a positive impact on local construction while offering an example that other municipalities may be able to follow in the future. We decided to focus on concrete as it's the most widely used construction material in our local sidewalks, curbs and gutter, and the foundations of local homes and commercial buildings. The carbon intensity of concrete can be high, but there are a number of strategies that exist today that can lessen its impact without jeopardizing performance. We wanted to make sure those strategies became the standard practice for new construction in Langford and developed our low-carbon concrete policy to support procurement for local projects. The city had put out an initial policy we thought would encourage local concrete producers to adopt some new technology available in Canada, but quickly learned that this prescriptive approach was relatively exclusive and that there were many more options to achieve the same result. Based on the feedback we received from local producers, and given the complexity of concrete, we decided to hire an expert local materials engineering consultant to help us navigate through the technical details and options.
The policy wasn't necessarily achievable or fair to local ready-mix suppliers. And it makes sense that they were having issues, because writing a policy for concrete is a difficult task. One of the toughest problems is that not all concrete is the same. The concrete used in foundations is different than used for sidewalks, which is different than we use for high-rises. Also in Langford, we have 4 different ready-mix suppliers, and each one of those suppliers uses different material sources to make their concrete. Some use local aggregates, some have their aggregates shipped in, and all use different types and combinations of cementing materials. These different materials each have different amounts of inherent emissions, and this makes developing a policy which achieves the goal of reducing emissions and which is fair for all suppliers very difficult. However, we worked closely with the city and the local suppliers to rewrite the policy to utilize environmental product declarations, EPDs, and develop application-dependent requirements for concrete. EPDs are a wonderful tool as they act as an apples-to-apples comparison between different suppliers.
And ultimately, we arrived at a policy that is based on the performance requirements of concrete mixes, rather than mandating certain technologies to be used to lower the carbon. This enables us to achieve the desired result of reducing significant levels of carbon emissions in concrete while maintaining a healthy and competitive market. All of the local concrete producers now have the ability to generate environmental product declarations to demonstrate they comply with the low-carbon concrete policy. And those impacts can be observed outside of our jurisdiction in neighboring communities as well.
Overall, I believe the results of the policy are great. I'm proud of the City of Langford for taking this initiative and for being a leader on the journey to make the building industry more sustainable.
The City of Langford low-carbon concrete policy is an example of how governments can work with local concrete producers to develop meaningful action on climate change. The resultant policy is consistent with the industry's recommended best practice of preparing a carbon project budget for concrete and can act as a model for other municipalities seeking to tackle embodied carbon in local construction. Please reach out to Concrete BC if you're interested in learning more. Thanks for watching.